Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Greg Ramsey. From the pages of Marvel Comics to the television screen to the silver screen, he is the Jade Giant, Joe Fixit, the big guy, one of the most iconic superheroes / anti-heroes of all time with a loyal fan following that spans the globe. We're talking about the Hulk. Heavily inspired by the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the Hulk was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and debuted in The Incredible Hulk in May of 1962. The Hulk was the result of Dr. Robert Bruce Banner's accidental exposure to gamma rays after saving the life of Rick Jones during a gamma bomb detonation. Banner was transformed into the hulking giant, and that change came whenever he became angry or outraged. Originally, the Hulk was meant to be gray, but due to inking problems with the first issue, he was changed to green, though he later returned to gray in the years that followed. There have even been red Hulks along the way as well. The Hulk became a founding member of the Avengers, which debuted in September of 1963, and that's where his legendary status truly began to take shape. The Hulk is seen as a tortured soul, a man trapped inside of his anger, desperate to get out and destroy his rage forever. This was the driving theme behind the Incredible Hulk TV series, which introduced the character in live action to the small screen in November of 1978. Starring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno in the title roles of Dr. David Bruce Banner and the Hulk respectively, the show leaned heavily on the inner turmoil of the main character. David Banner traveled the country, running from his other side and trying to stay one step ahead of investigative reporter Jack McGee, portrayed by Jack Colvin. The show propelled the Hulk to the forefront of a mainstream pop culture, adding another layer to the character's legend. The Hulk has also enjoyed a run of several different animated series, beginning in 1966 and continuing throughout the 2000s. But it was the silver screen that brought the character to Hollywood like never before, with 2003's Hulk starring Eric Bana and 2008's The Incredible Hulk starring Edward Norton. These appearances were the precursor to Mark Ruffalo's current run as the Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where he often steals the show in the character's 5-film story arc. The Hulk has taken his place in the pantheon of all-time superhero icons. He is one of the most beloved characters in comic book history, and thanks to the writers, artists, and creators that continue to tell his stories, the Hulk will undoubtedly remain one of the most legendary figures in modern pop culture history. And that's the lowdown on the Hulk. You and me have talked about this a bunch in the past, dude. And I know you've answered this question, God knows how many times, but I keep forgetting. When was the first time you went to the con with us? And I'm not playing stupid. I honestly can never remember the answer to this. Was it 94, 95? When was it? Was it later?
Oh, no, it was much later than that. It was, I believe, 2002 or 2003.
Good
was my
God.
first con going with you guys.
Why can I never remember that, dude? I'm getting old. That's what it is.
We all are, man.
I know. Don't remind me. Yeah. So I remember like the first time you went with us. I'm not gonna say I had to twist your arm. I kept mentioning it to you, and I don't know what finally did it for you, but you did go with us, and I'm glad you did. But we've always said that we created a monster because pretty much every year at the con, you always leave with way more stuff than anybody else ever leaves with. So you're welcome for spending all your money. So,
well, I had to make up for lost time. You see, I mean, you guys were seasoned vets, and I was the newcomer. The first year, I didn't buy much. I was just there to kind of look around and get a feel for the things. And you said, "You going to pick up anything?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I think I'm going to go back to my roots, which is the Hulk." So looking around, saw some covers, and I remember you saying, "Man, look at that cover, that's killer." And it was a couple of Hulk issues. I can't remember, Rampaging Hulk, something like that.
Right. Yeah, that sounds
familiar. I just bought a few things, and I didn't want to really get into it too much until after that.
That answers my second question because I'm fuzzy on that. I was fuzzy on that too. I couldn't remember if you'd already been into the character or if you just sort of had a passing moment with the Hulk and then you started going to the con and decided, hey, I'm going to start checking it out. So you hadn't really been collecting, but you were already familiar. Did that go back to the show or to the comic first?
The comics, yeah. I mean, growing up as a kid, I don't know, the appeal for the Hulk to me was, the limitless strength and power, and he was pretty much indestructible, and I like that. I wanted to be like that. I'm sure every kid did. Every boy that age probably wanted those attributes. So I mean, I figured best place to start again would be with the Hulk.
And to that point, like that's why so many kids, loved Superman because they wanted to fly. So many kids wanted to be like Batman because he's just cool. Because there's not much about Batman that's not cool, let's be honest. Other kids wanted to be like Spider-Man because he was them. He was Spider-Man, but he was like 14, 15 years old. That's not a man yet. So, but for you, it was the Hulk because he was just, like you said, invincible. He is, and I know we just started the show here and we haven't really gone down the rabbit hole too much, but I've already mentioned Superman's name. One of the things that by comparison, that a lot of people have a hard time with Superman is that you can't relate to him, which is why he is pretty much always going to be second to Batman, because any normal person can identify with Batman. Everyone suffered some kind of loss in their life. Some loved one has passed on. If they haven't, good on them. But most of us have suffered that kind of loss, and they know what it's like to internalize. A lot of us internalize that pain, dude, and we don't talk about it, and we just keep it to ourselves. And especially if the person in question died at the hands of someone else, you just feel like, God, man, if only there was a way. Not necessarily for revenge, but just to make that person pay for what they did. So people can identify with Batman a lot easier. But my initial point of this was, Superman is so perfect, dude. He's got one weakness. Well, two if you count magic, but it's kryptonite. That's it. And I think the last time I checked, Batman owns all the kryptonite on Earth, because he's right. Because because in his mind, well, I might have to take this guy out if I need to. So that's sort of his MO. That's how Batman would think, right? But Superman's perfect. How can you hurt that? So who would win in a fight, Hulk or Superman? Well, the fact is, Hulk is more fallible. He's, like you said, nearly invincible. You can't pierce his skin unless you've got, has Wolverine, I guess Wolverine has pierced his skin with the adamantium claws, but, in a fight, Superman's probably going to win, because the Hulk, though he's almost invincible, he's still human, because he still has that human side. So for me, that's always been a part of him that is very intriguing, because somewhere underneath all of that chaos is, Bruce Banner, who cannot get out, right?
Yeah, the internal struggle between the two, the dual personalities, Banner and Hulk. They're both vying for control of, say, one body, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. They're both competing for the mind. The Hulk could care less about the mind, right? At his most savage, all he cares about are his fists. And he just wants to be left alone. That's really his whole gig. The original Hulk, he just wants to be left alone. Puny Banner. Remember the Puny Banner thing? So,
yeah. I'd like to share a story, that is really appropriate for that. When I was growing up, of course, I was a Hulk fan. My family would take trips out to the country, to go see my grandparents. Mm-hmm. And they kept chickens around the house. They had a screened-in porch, and had roosters, chickens in there. So I got the bright idea that one day, when I was over there, that I would go show this rooster up. And I imitated the Hulk. And I thought the rooster would, run away scared, but completely the opposite effect. I saw the feathers on its neck ruffle, and immediately I knew I was in trouble. I was like, oh, wow. So I turned into Puny Banner, went screaming and crying, and Grandpa had to come save me, be the hero of the day. So, after that, I found out, well, I probably better keep fiction separate from reality.
Yeah, right. Well, you're a kid, you think, and, talking about Superman before, most of us tied a towel around our neck. I know I did. And I ran around the backyard, and I didn't have a mask, but I made one. just whatever I could get my hands on, because I had the whole superhero motif going. So you were hulking out at a young age, man. It's so easy to do, and plus, kids already have that struggle of, I don't know who I am yet. I'm supposed to behave, but I don't even know what that means yet. And it's like, it's not till they start getting older, their teenage years, and then it gets worse, because then they really don't know who they are. They're trying to find their place in the world, and they've got this real identity crisis happening. Dude, my kid, and my kid has always loved the Hulk. It was the first character he was drawn to. His favorite color was green. For years and years and years, it was green, and he loved the Hulk. He's cooled down on both, but my kid had some buttons, man. If you push the wrong button, he'd Hulk out for real. Like, so I could totally see why he identified with that character. Because like you said, it's the struggle. It's the id and the ego. It's the yin and yang. It's the two personalities sort of, stuck in one mind.
And I think that's why I felt a strong connection to Wesley. I was like, that's cool. That's my boy right there going after he likes the Hulk, that's cool.
Oh yeah. And I mean, dude, he doesn't do it now, of course, because he's getting older, but every time you come to the house, he dragged you up to his room, and every time he did it, we're always like,
remember.
Oh yeah, we're always like, son, he just got here, and he keeps you up here for like a half hour. So that's good stuff, man. But yeah, he's not exactly the comic book nerd that I am. He's more of a gamer, and it's all good. We all got to have our own thing. But yeah, the Hulk has always kind of been there. He's, like any other superhero that I read growing up. For me, I discovered him in comics first, like you did. Dude, I was 5 when the show hit the air, and I can vividly remember the show beginning on TV, and I'm 5 years old, and I got a lot of memories from those years. And I grew up with it. I watched it in reruns after it went off the air, and I just, the iconic piano theme of when he's got the backpack and he's hitchhiking. He's trying to get to the next town. He's trying to avoid Mr. McGee, the reporter. He's trying to, not Hulk out. And Bill Bixby, one of the best actors. I mean, at the time, there was no one else they could have gotten better to portray Bruce Banner.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, yeah, I'm like you. Bill Bixby was the Banner character, and probably always will be, in my heart, because I grew up with that. And what else can you say about Lou Ferrigno, man? The guy had an Olympic body. Who else to get to play the Hulk? Like you said, with Bill Bixby playing Bruce Banner or David Banner. They actually changed the first name to David Banner on the show.
Yeah. In the comics, it was Robert Bruce Banner, and in the show, it was David Bruce Banner. And I'm sure there's a reason for that. I've never researched it or heard why, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. But yeah, it was David Banner, which is, I mean, okay. But, it's funny because things kind of get hazy as a kid. And so it became David Banner. And then I go read the comics and it's Bruce. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And it took me a long time before I started getting older and started maturing and started realizing, wait a minute, they changed it. Like, I really didn't know. And dude, if I had to guess, I would say it's one of those weird TV things that they do. Like, I don't know if they had a good reason or not, but like you said, man, Ferrigno was fantastic. Painted the dude green, put a wig on him. He had slippers on. If you get, if you go back and watch the show, you can see he's not in bare feet all the time.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can't run barefoot everywhere. You got to protect your feet. I understand that, but I kind of wish they would have, kept his feet off the camera whenever they did that.
I know, it's weird. Dude, it's one of those things, you just forgive it as you get older. Like, I grew up watching a lot of the 80s stuff, and I for me, it was Mask and Thundercats and G.I. Joe and Transformers, and some of that stuff doesn't age too well, but I forgive it. I forgive it because it's part of my childhood. It's part of nostalgia, and, watching Lou Ferrigno run around and essentially pull on bathroom slippers is kind of the same thing. So, it is what it is. But man, his body more than made up for it. And, honestly, for the effects of the day, I thought they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah, at the time it was pretty good. I mean, and if you're a kid, you really don't catch stuff like that, like what we're talking about, maybe the slippers or other things that you catch when you get older.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about the changing of the name. I'm like you. for the longest time, I thought the character's name was David Banner as well from watching the series. And then, years later, we get into the con, and I get a few comics, and I'm reading Bruce Banner, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Right. Yeah, it's just, like I said, it's just one of those things. I don't get too hung up on it, but it is interesting. I'm glad that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has kept him true to form. He's Bruce Banner as he should have been. And I know you have the entire series on DVD, don't you? The Hulk series?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think after we went to the con and I got back into comics and back into the Hulk, I definitely went out and bought the entire series on DVD. Mm-hmm. I had to have it.
That's something I've not done. Honestly, my days of buying DVDs might be over, and I said I would never do that because I'm that guy that likes to have the book in his hand versus downloading it. I'm the guy that likes to buy the movie. But, dude, I've got so many discs, man. I've got a wall full of CDs, a wall full of DVDs, 2 walls full of DVDs. And, man, I don't know if I could add any more to it, man. I think if I decide to do The Incredible Hulk, the entire series, I'll probably just download it. I don't know. And I said I would never do that, but it's technology, babe. It's 2020. So for lack of a better term, I tend to hoard. You've been in my office. You see the hoarding. It's not too very bad, but it's bad enough that I get complaints from the Rogues Gallery. Let's just put it that way. So,
well, I think I inherited that same trait from my mom. She's a hoarder, so I've kind of hoarded some stuff over the years myself. But right. I've got a few good pieces, from what I've collected from the con over the years. The Hulk busts and statues. We got some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's true, man. I mean, there's been so many years we've went, and you've left with some sweet Hulk booty for sure. And I'm pretty sure I've given you all the Incredible Hulk comics I have, because when you first started going to the con with it, you were talking about getting back issues. I'm like, dude, let me just give you what I have, because I know I gave you that McFarlane, the purple cover where he's separating the words, separating the logo of the Hulk when he was Mr. Fix-It.
Oh yeah, and I appreciated that. I mean, I was like. You don't know what that meant to me, It's like, well, it's a good friend of mine giving me comics free of charge, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Hey, folks, let me tell you something. If any of you listen, don't collect comics, you don't know what a big deal that is to us. Like I've had the same feeling before when I've been handed stuff comic book related. I'm like, oh my God, you just want to give this to me? Like, that's a big deal in our culture, man. That's not. It's hard to find something to compare that. It's like somebody walking up and giving you $10 out of their pocket for no good reason. You're like, dude, you sure you just want to give me this? Like, yeah. So no, it's much appreciated, man, for sure. But like when you decided to go on that journey of trying to get, and I don't know if it started that way for you, but I'm sure it became, all right, that's it. Screw it. I got to get every issue. I'm like, why am I going to sit here with issues of Hulk in my long boxes that I'm probably never going to read again? I'll just help, advance your collection of the series. How close are you to being done with it, by the way?
Well, at the time, I think I had collected everything a few years back, and then the prices started going up on the individual comics, so I had to stop buying individuals and kind of lost track. I hate that happened, but financially it was the smart decision. But I'm whenever we go back to the con, I'm gonna try to catch back up with the trade paperbacks and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What was because like you said, it can get very pricey, which is why I don't collect full time anymore. I can't. It's too much. And as long as the writers and artists are getting a cut of this, and I'm sure they're not. I'm sure the publishers are the ones getting the majority of the money for these books. But I would like to think that I was putting money in the creators' pockets to some extent. I mean, you are if you buy Image. If you buy Image and Dark Horse and a couple of the other independent studios. But when it comes to DC and Marvel, the money's going in their pockets. And I mean, it's all good, I guess. But I'm like you, man. The burden's too high. What's the earliest issue you have of the Hulk? Like, where did you not start, but how far back have you gone? What's the earliest issue you have?
Are you talking about like a single individual issue?
Yes.
It's number 102. I think it was back in 1968.
Cool.
Yeah. I bought that one online. It's one of the older issues, so I paid a pretty good bit for it at the time, and it's in good condition.
Well, that's good. That's good. That counts for a lot. And it's been about a year or so since I've done this, but I actually went through and rebagged and reboarded a ton of comics. I think I went through a bag and a half of bags, and I went through a whole pack of boards, and I reboxed like 3 or 4 boxes. I think I was talking to you on the phone, or we called each other, and I was telling you I was finally breaking down and doing that because it had been years since I'd done it. So,
yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to do that. It's a big undertaking, I have to say.
It is, and listen, if you decide you want to, let me know, because I found a joint in God, what town was it? I want to say Statesville. I think it was Statesville that I went to, because I couldn't find what I needed around here. You know, I just couldn't find what I needed, so I had to drive a ways to get, because I didn't want to order the stuff online. It was going to take forever to get here. Plus, the stuff online was way too expensive. For just supplies, I'm like, you people got to be kidding me. So I just got in the car and drove to, I want to say Statesville, and I just picked up what I needed that week. So I was on vacation that week, and I had time to burn. We didn't go anywhere for a trip or anything, so I was like, screw it, I'm just going to do the comic book thing. But yeah, man, the show was... You know, there's some cheese in the show. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, some of this stuff doesn't hold up great when you get older. But, you know, Bill Bixby's performance is just spot on. And honestly, he saves a lot of the show when it gets to be hokey and stuff like that. So, you know, the Hulk has went through different versions. I mean, the classic, you know, Stan Lee and
Jack Kirby.
Yes, sorry, I blanked. I was going to say John Romita for some reason. But yeah, the classic Lee and Kirby Hulk we're talking about, you know, purple pants, green skin, you know, sort of the black greenish hair, and you know he had the expression, he had the face of a boxer, because a lot of Jack Kirby's, you know, the way he drew men's face, it looked like boxers. Had the big, you know, the big fat nose and the square jaw, and classic Kirby. I would never diss the guy because he was the king. But like that was the classic Hulk, and then of course as different artists got a hold of him over the years and started tweaking him and changing his look and changing his hair and changing his wardrobe. We mentioned McFarlane, dude. Todd McFarlane's my favorite artist of all time. He's just, to this day, I think for me personally, he's in my top 10 best comic book artists I've ever seen. And when he did the run on the Incredible Hulk, I loved it, man. Have you gotten that whole run? His whole run on the Hulk?
Yeah, I was finally able to collect them all, and I think you gave me a few issues yourself. So yeah, and yeah, you're right. He definitely groundbreaking work. Yeah,
he just fantastic, and the stuff he did on Spider-Man is the stuff that put him on the map, and it's the stuff that he'll be remembered for probably long after he's gone. Was his run on Spider-Man that led to a new solo Spider-Man book, first one in years. But dude, for me, it started with Incredible Hulk and then Spawn later on, of course. But yeah, good stuff, man. It's hard. You know, we didn't just set out to talk about the Hulk in media. I mean, I know that's what this is kind of getting at, but you know, the fact that we've seen several different incarnations of the Hulk over the years, not just on the TV show, but in movies and cartoons and whatnot. It just shows you how beloved this character really is. Do you remember the 60s cartoon with that theme song of the Hulk? Do you remember that?
I don't remember how it went, but I sort of remember, you know, the visual, the cartoon itself. Yeah, it's a lot of that was stop motion. It was just stop motion, like comic book panels. It wasn't exactly animated, and but I just remember those old school 60s themes, and like most of the songs were spoken like this instead of being sung. And like, you know, it's just that sing-song voice where it wasn't really a chorus. It was just like, it sounded like overdub of 2 or 3 voices singing together. And it was the same thing with Spider-Man. It was the same thing with Iron Man. The classic Iron Man cartoon song is just killer. But yeah, man, like just the idea of those characters being, and see, you know, kids today with their hula hoop and their 8 tracks and their Dan Fogelberg. That's a basketball reference, folks, in case you didn't pick that up. Kids today don't know how good they have it, man, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, dude. When we were kids, we didn't have anything like that. We had the cartoons, and we had a random TV show. And, I mean, you know, talk about how dry the well was when we were growing up in terms of seeing our favorite heroes displayed on the screen. There just wasn't much of it going on, right? No, I mean, and that's why it was they did it so well too, and you know, and that's why it turned out so great, you know, because if people like our generation had to wait so many years for somebody to do it right on the big screen, and it turned out really well.
It did. I mean, they had some bumps along the way, man. And I know we tend to jump around when we talk. We do this. We've been doing this in real life for years, folks. We get on a topic, then we'll jump to something else. So just bear with us. But through the years of comic books, the great artists and writers that handled him.
Del Keon, his Hulk was phenomenal.
Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. His character called the Pit is basically just the Hulk with long hair and like white skin. It's basically like the same guy. But yeah, dude, his work on Hulk was great. So we'd be remiss if we didn't mention those writers and artists that worked on him over the years. But in terms of mainstream pop culture and how famous and how popular the Hulk got over the years, you got to mention, even though we don't want to, you got to mention the first Hulk movie, which was 2003, The Hulk, starring Eric Bana and Jennifer Connelly. So, if you want to brave the waters, my friend, let's talk about the first Hulk movie. Go.
Well, I was so excited and pumped when I saw my big green guy coming to the big screen, and after it was over with, oh man, I was disappointed. I don't know, a few things wrong with that movie. Actually, the CGI of the body looked great, but the face kind of Shrekish looking, cartoonish.
Yes.
And yeah. Another thing they made, well, Nick Nolte, I like Nick Nolte, but he was the absorbing man. They made him the Hulk's father,
right.
And that was wrong. That was totally wrong. Shouldn't have done that.
Right.
I think they also made the Hulk just a little too big. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
Oh, massive. My God, he was massive. At that point, he's just unbelievable. I mean, it's hard to buy the big green dude anyway, but he was much bigger than he was portrayed in, even in the Ed Norton film. I think he was bigger in the original than he was the Ed Norton film, I believe. Yeah, you're right. Way too big.
Yeah, that must have been one of the complaints from the fans about the first movie, and then as the reason why they made him smaller in the next two movies. So I mean, if you make him too big, you're just like, well, I mean, who can go up against this, Goliath?
Yeah, at that point it becomes like if you're sitting in the theater and your suspension of disbelief gets shot at any moment, you're out of the movie. It's like being a pro wrestling crowd. If there's any moment during the match where you look at each other and go, "Oh, come on," and guess what? The guys in the ring have lost you, and it's over. And good luck trying to get the audience back. So I think that's what happened with Hulk. I think that people went in with all these expectations, like you said. Sam Elliott, freaking fantastic actor. Eric Bana, good actor. Jennifer Connelly, good actress. The cast was there. Nick Nolte, he's a legend in Hollywood. But the cast is there. They had a great director. Everything seemed okay. And then I saw comic book panels on the screen, and I said, "What am I looking at?" Like that. That to me, dude, was a surefire sign this thing was going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, it was really disappointing, but I guess, maybe they learned from it. I think 5 years later, they did The Incredible Hulk, and it was much better, I thought.
Absolutely. It's night and day. Like you said, one of the chief complaints with this movie was that he looked like Shrek with hair. He did. He looked like Shrek with hair. He had that huge body, but like it was hairless. He was soft. The color was wrong. It was too bright. His face looked mushy. Didn't look like a boxer at all. Looked like a big overgrown kid to me, like a stuffed animal. And I'm like, this is Hulk? Like, I'm not even intimidated by this guy. Fast forward, like you said, 2008, Ed Norton. The Hulk's face looks like a horror movie. Remember the lines going through his face and the expression of those dark eyes? Jesus, man.
I remember you made the comment, you said, kind of looks like a zombie. And I was like, yeah, you made a good point. I agreed. Yeah. That's intimidating.
Absolutely. Dude, that's memorable. And that's something, if it came at you, first of all, you would lose all control of your bowels. Let's call it for what it is. Second, you would attempt to run if you didn't pass out first. Okay? So.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, man. Huge difference.
And the Abomination looked great, too.
Oh, my God. Way overdone. I think way overdone, way beyond the realm of possibility, like we were complaining about with the first Hulk movie. But it didn't matter. because it was great. Like you said, he looked fantastic, So,
oh yeah,
yeah. The 2008 film, I love me some Ed Norton. I do. I've never not liked this guy. He was very hands-on with the character. He had a lot of input, whether they asked for it or he just decided to get it or to give it. I don't know. One of the things that kills me about this film is that it, like Rotten Tomatoes, take it for what it's worth, folks, had only a 67% approval rating with an average score of 6.17 out of 10, which is not bad. But one of the reviews says The Incredible Hulk may not be quite the smashing success that fans of Marvel's raging behemoth might hope for, but it offers more than enough big green action to make up for its occasionally puny narrative. I mean, the movie got slow in spots for me too. But dude, I was going off of what you were. I was going off the memory of the 5 years prior when I was just wholly disappointed by that other film. And I was thinking, I want something better and bigger and better, and hope to God this one's okay this time. So that's kind of where I was going off of. Talk to me about Ed Norton as Bruce Banner. Was he perfect or what?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he embodied everything that the character was to me. I mean, he compassionate, caring. So, they made him seem really intelligent as well. Which is what you want from Bruce Banner.
I think it was the first time that we had gotten to see that version of Hulk, and we were singing Bill Bixby's praises, and I always will because he's fantastic. But the show wasn't really delivered in such a way where it was like, listen, this guy is brilliant. He's got how many PhDs? That became a joke for Mark Ruffalo later on, right? But how many PhDs does this guy have? He's brilliant. Otherwise, this would never have been possible. He made this happen. It's not like, well, yeah, he didn't mean to. But the fact is, you don't just do this by pressing the wrong button. This guy was brilliant. But you never really got that in the show. You just got more like, I'm a loner. I want to be left alone. I don't want to be here. I'm trying to protect you people, and I don't want to Hulk out. I'm trying not to get mad, lose my temper. But the Ed Norton version was just... and the fact that they put him in the chair for the flashback sequence, and they had the actual equipment from the show... Dude, that's just...
Oh, yeah.
What a great throwback. What a great callback that was, man. That was one of my favorite parts of the film.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to do stuff like that, for the diehard fans who, you have to, take them down memory lane, if you will.
Oh, yeah, dude, it's absolute fan service. You called it. It's absolute fan service. So, yeah, man, I really enjoyed that. And like I said, I'm a sucker for this guy. He's so good. I've never seen a bad Ed Norton film. I just don't know if one exists. But, yeah, he had a lot of input in this film. Like I said, I don't know if that was asked for or if he demanded it. I know that at the end of the day, that he was supposed to go on and portray the Hulk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That did not come to pass. I will say this for him. When it was announced that Mark Ruffalo was going to be taking his spot, he came out on Twitter and released this very professional, very polite message that said, "No hard feelings. I wish these folks all the luck in the world. I know it'll be fantastic." And Mark Ruffalo, more power to you. I'm just loosely quoting here, folks. Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you. But yeah, that was, to me, that showed a lot of class by someone that didn't have to do it. He could remain silent, and he could have said no comment. He could not even acknowledged it. But for the fans' sake, he decided to speak, and I was very impressed by that. So
that spoke volumes. I mean, it almost, it's like he became the Bruce Banner character, that Bill Bixby was in the show, the compassionate, caring side.
Oh, dude, good call. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even thought about it like that, but yeah, excellent call, dude. When you first heard, because I know what my answer is, when you first heard about, okay, they got Mark Ruffalo to play the Hulk, what was your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I was skeptical. I didn't know if he was going to be able to pull it off. I thought, well, trying to follow Ed Norton, it's going to be tough. We'll see though.
Well, I don't know if you remember this or not, but my first comment was, "Oh, Mark Ruffalo is the chick flick actor. Why are we doing this?" I was wholly negative. Of course, I'm the same guy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm the same guy that said Heath Ledger had no business playing the Joker, and boy, did I eat my words on that one, pal. But
yeah, sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. Actually, to be honest, I had never heard of Mark Ruffalo up until that point. I'd never seen him. I don't know why, but I've never crossed paths with that guy until the Avengers.
I'd seen him. In random chick flicks, which wasn't my choice to watch. I'm not a chick flick kind of guy. I'm just being straight with you. Yeah, I wasn't thinking much about him as the Hulk, but dude, I was proven wrong again. I don't mind being proven wrong, folks. I have no problem being. I'm wrong all the time. Let me just tell you right now. But if it's a good kind of wrong, sweet. Mark Ruffalo in 5 films. Now, of course, granted, folks, he's had 5 opportunities. Well, he's made the best of every single one of them. This dude is absolutely pitch perfect. He's the best Bruce Banner, maybe of all time. And I've got a lot of love in my heart for Bill Bixby. I really do. But dude, he's the right kind of. I think he combines like what the point you made about Bixby being sentimental and being, very human. He's got that side, but every time he's on set or he's on the screen with Tony Stark, you get to see that nerd, that geek, that really brilliant mind come out in him. And I love those scenes with him and Downey. They're fantastic.
Oh yeah, me too. I love to see those guys tinkering, if you will, like on something like. What was it? Ultron. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's trying to talk him out of it. He's like, "This is a bad idea." Tony's like, "We have to do this."
That's another point. Mark Ruffalo, as Bruce Banner, you saw that very timid, cautious side, and that's the character. He was, kind of nervous, I guess you could say.
Oh yeah, for sure. The first Avengers film. Now, at that point, he's been the Hulk for, and folks, I don't know if this is canon or not, but and I'm just throwing a number out there to you. You could research and tell me I'm wrong. But by the time the Avengers happens, I would take a wild shot in the dark and say that he has been the Hulk for 2 years, maybe a year, something like that. Technically, in terms of the storyline, the timeline. But when Black Widow confronts him in that hut, and you think he's going to Hulk out on her because he screams at her, and she jumps up with the gun. Remember? And he's like, "I'm sorry, that I just wanted to see how you'd react," because he wasn't nervous at all, because he knew if she shoots the gun, I'm going to Hulk out and I won't die. It doesn't matter. And I love that, and he hooked me. Right there with that scene, I said in the theater, "This is going to be fine. This is going to be fine. This is perfect." And scared her to death. You can actually see her, shaking. And how often do you shake Natasha Romanoff? You don't. She's cold-blooded killer. That was her past, and assassin, and like you said, visibly shaken. And I love the narrative, the story between him and her, and how it continued through the rest of the Avengers films. And I hate that it never saw the kind of finale that we wanted it to see. I was always hoping that at some part they could end up together. I mean, he was trying to talk her into running away with him in Ultron. Remember that? And she kicked him into the hole, and she's like, "Sorry, I don't need you. I need the other guy." And I'm like, "Oh no," so.
And then what is it at the end? She's trying to talk the big guy back in, and he turns her off.
Yeah, and that's the ship that eventually leads him to Sakaar. Yeah, that's, and we knew where it was going. Remember that? I don't know. I can't remember if you and I went to see that together, or if we just talked about it after it happened. But I'm like, where that ship's taking him, right? And we're like, "Oh yeah, that's got to be it." So yeah, we knew what was coming.
Yeah, that was pretty cool to anticipate that. Because they were actually changing the storyline a little bit from Planet Hulk to Thor Ragnarok, where Thor pretty much is the main character who gets transported to that planet. but Hulk's already there, of course. But you know, in the comic, the Hulk is the star. You know, he's the focus, and they kind of, you know, tweaked it a little bit, but it was fine.
It worked. It suited the story. That's what I love about Marvel, man. Like you said, yes, they will tweak the story. Yes, they will make changes, but they do it in service of the story that they're telling. I mean, I don't remember the last time, if ever, that I came out of a Marvel film saying, well, that was a mistake. I mean, I just don't know that I've seen it. I've been happier with some films over others, if I'm being honest. But I've never walked away being totally unhappy with anything they've done. I mean, that to me is, you know, what makes this franchise stand out, what makes this particular universe stand out among all the rest, is that everyone on board has the same sort of idealism, that ideology that says we got to make the fans happy.
They're consistently good, and they don't. Most of the time, they don't let the actors and actresses don't let their egos get in the way, and they're able to stand the test of time, you know, and make more movies.
Absolutely, yeah, that's important. And it, you know, because dude, when you sign on for the Marvel Universe, you don't just sign on for one film. You sign on for multiple films over multiple years. I mean, pretty much everyone that signs on is, I don't want to say signing your life away because you can do other things, but really for the next, what would you think, 2 to 5 years, you're pretty much signed up. I mean, and they all agree to it. Number one, the money's, I would imagine, it's pretty darn good. But number two of that, these are fun stories. It's a fun cast to be around. It's like good men and women, good actors, good actresses who are just trying to have fun and tell a funny book story. I mean, to me, dude, that's what we as kids wanted to see on the big screen, and we never got it. And you know, Kevin Smith has a line that says, you know, you're doing the Lord's work. They're doing the Lord's work in Marvel. I mean, the people doing the movies are just, dude, they're nailing it every time.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, boom, 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 one after the other. You come out of the theater and you're like, wow, you know, that was great.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah. And you and I have been to see a lot of them together, man, like for sure. And whenever we can get our schedules to fit, usually you and I would kind of tag along and go see the film together. But yeah, man, I don't, like I said, I've never been disappointed with anything that's happened so far with this character in the films in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, there's always been this story, or this pretty much, I don't want to say story, but pretty much this understanding since the first two films kind of failed, or whatever you want to call it. The first film was a disaster, in my opinion. Second film, Ed Norton decided, I'm done. And then, you know, you get Ruffalo, and supposedly Marvel has said, we're not interested in doing a third Hulk film because we can tell Hulk stories in our cinematic universe films, and it's all good. They don't want to set themselves up for possible failure, I guess you could say. Well, how do you feel about that, considering we're 5 movies in? I think he could carry a movie now for sure. What about you?
Absolutely. You know, in fact, you know, I've been craving another standalone Hulk movie, and then they could have you know, other characters come in to help support. But you know, I've been, you know, since 2008, I've been wanting another single Hulk movie. You know, I'm disappointed that they haven't at least tried to do one more.
Yeah, that's the word, man. That's and I mean, now granted, anything could change, dude. We've been living in an odd year for sure. This is something none of us will ever forget. And you know, this has changed the world in general. It's changed entertainment as well. I mean, you know, things are constantly changing. Everything is pretty, you know, nothing's set in stone anymore. What they said yesterday may not be the case tomorrow. So, you know, I think anything could happen at this point. Like you said, it's been a long time, and I think he could more than do it. I do believe, like you said, they would have to put other characters in it. I don't think you could. All right, you could put Ruffalo in there and say, okay, it's Bruce Banner. We're going to set him in a new direction. There's no Avengers this time. Tony's dead. Spoiler alert, fans. Tony's dead. But, you know, you set him off by himself. There's no Natasha. There's no one else. Dude, I don't know how I feel about that. Nick Fury would at least have to be there. There would at least have to be Hawkeye. You feel like there'd have to be somebody there.
Some kind of bridge connecting, you know, the what he's done before in the previous 5 movies, you know, to his standalone movie. Yeah, definitely. And like you said, Mark Ruffalo, I think he could do it. I think he could pull it off now because he's proven himself, you know, 5 different movies. And, he didn't just, he wasn't just there. He brought something to the table. He made everybody else around him better, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you can see the chemistry on screen. You can see it between him and Downey. You can see it with Hemsworth, with Evans. It's there with Scarlett Johansson. The chemistry's there. And like you said, when almost every scene he's in, and he doesn't have to yell, doesn't have to shout, he doesn't even have to Hulk out. He can just be there. And he just has this charm about him, which I think makes him very accessible to the casual comic book fan and casual moviegoer as well. So, talking about the Hulk in these films, and we talked about Thor Ragnarok, I have to say, apart from the first Avengers, which we really got, it's the first time you see Ruffalo Hulk out, first time you see him as the Hulk, you get to see him in that great scene where he punches Thor out of the blue. And it's just so many great comedic moments in that film. But Thor Ragnarok, to me, is where this character, no pun intended, really got to flex his muscles. And we got to see, wow, this is the Hulk that we had been hoping for. It's almost a Hulk film all by itself.
Yeah, you're right. When I saw it, I thought, well, this is kind of like the Planet Hulk story, getting shot off to another planet. And it was great. Loki was already there, and you got Thor and the Hulk fighting in like a gladiatorial Coliseum type atmosphere, and Hulk's just mopping the floor with Thor, and there's Loki up in the box seat, if you will. He's sitting there, he's enjoying it, he's pumping his fist. I thought, man, that was great.
Yeah, he's like, yes, finally. Yeah. Yeah, because they were doing it to him. Something about now you know how it feels or something like that. I forget the quote, but yeah, dude, listen. Tom Hiddleston as Loki, dude, shut up. Just, you can never recast Loki. Forget it. Stop it. It'll never happen. It's a horrible idea. Whoever decides to, fire that executive because he's a freaking moron. Because Tom Hiddleston is by far, hands down, born to play the God of Mischief. Absolutely born to play Loki.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the many great choices that Marvel made on their road, through these phases. And like you said, how do you replace him? How do you replace Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man and Tony Stark?
You don't. You just let him be gone. And you go back into this series with the understanding that it's not 2020, it's 2025 now in their timeline, and Stark's gone, and he had to be gone for the betterment of the universe, for the point of the story. His story was completed. It has to be this way. You don't replace him. You can bring Downey back in a 3D hologram if you want to. You can bring him back in flashbacks, but you don't bring him back and you don't replace him. And there's a female Iron Man in the books, and I can't remember the character's name, but a lot of fans have talked about Shuri from Black Panther becoming the new Iron Man. I have no issue with that. I love that character in Black Panther. Black Panther is maybe still my favorite Marvel movie of all time. I love that film. And Shuri's fantastic. So if you want to go that route, go that route. I have no issue with that at all. But like you said, you don't replace Downey. There's just no way.
Yeah, and like you said, it would taint the story to bring him back, as in, bring him back to life somehow. Because the sacrifice that he made, I mean, that was epic,
Absolutely. You hear that? You hear that, DC people? Jason Todd should have stayed dead. I'm sorry. It's how I feel, okay? Jason Todd should have stayed dead, and you should never have killed off Superman to begin with. I hate the death. The death tactic is a tactic. It's a ploy. Now, granted, Marvel brought back Bucky Barnes, which we never saw coming as a Winter Soldier. I said it then, that you leave him dead. There's no reason to, all these creative minds in these comic book companies, these guys, there were creative minds that created the initial characters. Create new characters. You don't have to do this, But if you're a comic book fan, it's a trade-off. You put up with that stuff, whether you like it or love it or hate it, doesn't really matter. They're going to do what they're going to do. But yeah, I'm like you, man. Don't ever replace him. It's a bad move. And at this point, even though Ruffalo is not walking around painted green and acting the part of the Hulk, dude, you don't replace him as Banner. I don't know. I have a tough time with that.
Yeah, I mean, how do you follow any of these actors and actresses? You know, how do you follow up? Yeah, like you said, just do new characters now and move on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're going to go to the extent of killing a character in a film, then leave him dead, and don't push forward with recasting. I think it's a bad idea. But yeah, man, his run in Thor Ragnarok was freaking fantastic. I thought he stole the show, whether he was as the Hulk or just as Banner, didn't matter. I thought he was fantastic in every scene he was in, especially at the end when Surtur is bringing about Ragnarok and they're talking about, well, this has to happen for the good of Asgard has to fall. And then there's the Hulk jumping onto Surtur and trying to punch him and stuff. And he's like, remember, he's putting holes in the crown. You're like, oh my God. And Thor's like, get off him, you giant idiot. And he gets down. He's like, for once in your life, don't smash. And he's like, but giant monster. And he's like, no. It's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And
man.
another point to make, I think Mark Ruffalo's CGI Hulk is probably the best of it, the three, of course, in my opinion.
Oh my God, yeah, no doubt about it. You can see him in the face.
Yeah,
you can see
Ruffalo's
Ruffalo's
they finally,
face.
They finally got the right formula. It took them, 3 times, but third time's a charm, like the old cliche says.
No, you're right. They finally got the tech down, and that's the thing, man, is that the tech catches up to these stories, and and vice versa. The stories finally catch up to the tech. When you get to the point of being in the year 2020, where you could do literally anything, they can do literally anything. They can de-age you. They can take an 80-year-old man, make him look 20 again. They did it with Michael Douglas. You could have sworn he was 25 again in those films, and they can do anything now. Why wouldn't you do these films now? This is the time to do them. If you ever wanted to do anything, if you were a comic book company and had money or had means and connection, dude, now's the time to do your film because now you can do anything. So yeah, the tech finally caught up, and he looks like $1 million. To your point, he looks like Mark Ruffalo, just big and green, and it's just absolutely perfect. I love that the Marvel people have stuck to their guns with Lou Ferrigno. Lou Ferrigno's made cameos in the films. He was actually the sound of the Hulk in the I think the first Hulk film. He was actually the voice of the Hulk when he was hulked out, and he's done other things for the company over the years. And Lou Ferrigno's got to be just one of the best humans you could probably ever meet. I've never read a negative word about this guy at all. And let's face it, man, he was the Hulk of our childhood. He was the one. I mean, when we saw him, yeah, he's a hero, and yeah, he's awesome, and you want to be like the Hulk, and we all took our shirts off and posed. I know I did. And, and you did with a chicken, for God's sake. So, like, you're trying to be the Hulk, but, like, in a dark room, if he comes out of the shadows, brother, you're running. I mean, he was just physically intimidating, man, for sure.
Yeah, scary looking. I remember a friend of mine, his cousin, telling me that the original show, when it first comes on, and the Hulk's flipping the car over during the lightning storm, he said that actually scared him. He had nightmares about the creature, the way it looked in that part.
Oh, dude, what a great aesthetic that was. I'll never forget that scene. That was one of the most beautifully shot scenes of any comic property I've ever seen. I mean, just the whole, like you said, the lightning and the torn shirt and the rain pouring down. And I don't know how they kept him green with that pouring rain. I'd love to know. And again, that's one of those things I got to go research to find out. But I'd love to know the secret behind that little magic trick.
Yeah. Every now and then in the series, you could kind of see the paint rub off on his hands a little bit.
Yeah.
It just kind of, like you said, glossed over.
And plus the wig, I mean, you could see where the wig's coming over his ears or around his ears and stuff. And just think, dude, Ferrigno had a body double. He had a stunt man. Like, that blows my... So someone else was that big and that jacked up? Like, do you know the story? Because I don't know the story on a stunt man. Do you?
No, I didn't know that. Honestly, I knew that when they filmed the intro to the show, there was a different guy playing the Hulk in one part. I can't remember his name, but I thought that was interesting.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. That's crazy. And you know what? You and I, it just made me think. You and I talked about this episode before. The episode where the old man somehow got the power. He got a blood transfusion from Banner. Is that what it was?
I remember that.
That's awesome.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. you had two Hulks pretty much, and they were sitting there fighting each other. I thought that was pretty cool, but I was afraid that this new Hulk was going to dethrone, the original Hulk when I was a kid, and that's why I still had, Lou Ferrigno. It was my hero, of course.
Oh yeah, of course. And, here we are almost an hour talking about this guy, but we haven't even mentioned the She-Hulk. To this day, I'm not sold on the name. I never have been. There's something about it. It's just the hokiest thing I've ever heard. I don't know. Who am I to judge? I'm not a comic book creator. I get it. But I don't know. I just always thought that's the most creative thing they could do with the name. That's not, no. That sounds like She-Ra, Princess of Power, dude. Like He-Man. Come on. Did you get into She-Hulk? Have you collected any She-Hulk or anything like that?
Yeah, I went back and collected the back issues of the first run. It was
Cool.
25 issues, and I've collected a few other runs since then. When I was a kid, the She-Hulk actually was fascinating. I thought, we have a male Hulk and you got a She-Hulk, like you said, and I was curious. I wanted to find out about the female Hulk. I just thought she was interesting for some reason.
Well, no, it's all good. I love the character. I just thought the name was just lazy, in my opinion. But she's an attorney, and I guess from the minute, because she got a blood transfusion, isn't that how she got the powers to begin with?
Yeah, I think somehow she was wounded. She was dying. Yeah, I think some guys came in to rob her or something like that, and she was dying. So Bruce just happened to be in town. And
convenient.
He's there, yeah, and he gives her a blood transfusion, saves her life, and then of course from then on she's a Hulk because she's got his blood, pumping inside her.
And she always had her mind, right? It's so odd that happened. I guess because she didn't get the gamma radiation. She just got the blood transfusion, so she kept her mind the entire time, right?
Yeah, that was one of the deviations from the Hulk. She actually had more of her mind. She was a little more intelligent than the first Hulk.
And if you're going to do anything, you're going to talk about the Hulk, you got to talk about Old Man Logan. What a shocking story that was for me personally to read. And folks, if you've never read Old Man Logan, I'm not talking about the film, which by the way is 5-star. If you've never seen Logan, how do you ever call yourself a fan? I'll never know. But if you've never read Old Man Logan, dude, now's the time, because a post-apocalyptic future, the Earth cut up into different provinces, into different territories run by supervillains. The Hulk and his inbred offspring, because he, got busy with She-Hulk at some point. Like, dude, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a Hulk fan, the first time you got to that page, are you like, what's going on here? Because I didn't have any heads up about it. I hadn't heard nothing about the story until I actually read it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you think it's just about Logan, but then you see that with the Hulk family, and you're like, this is crazy. Yeah, but then after a few issues, you're like, okay, I kind of like it.
It was very very different, man. And Marvel, just like DC, likes to delve into future storylines and try to predict or try to do maybe a what if, or here's the future and we got to stop it or something like that. So yeah, the Old Man Logan thing is happened. And, like I said, folks, if you've never checked it out, you got to do yourself a favor, check it out for sure. What version of your Hulk, what version of the Hulk, I should say, is your favorite so far? Do you like the rampaging monster? Do you like the intelligent one? The McFarlane version of Joe Fixit is fantastic. I mean, who so far is your favorite?
I would have to say probably the Joe Fixit, just because he was so funny. I was laughing out loud, reading his dialogue. Mm-hmm. He's crazy.
And was it Peter David that wrote that run of the Hulk? I think it was.
It might have been.
I think it was Peter David that wrote. I want to say David Michelin, but I think David Michelin was writing Amazing Spider-Man when McFarlane took over on pencils. I think it's Peter David. Peter David, one of the best comic writers of all time.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, they changed the color back to gray, what it originally was supposed to have been.
Yep.
And, I mean, it's kind of cool when you change the character a little bit. It was a good change, I thought.
And, man, remember when the Red Hulk hit and it was like the biggest craze? It was like Brock Lesnar was the next big thing, man. He was huge. Like the Red Hulk was all anyone was talking about. Who the mystery was, like who's really the Red Hulk? Like, man, did you get sucked up in all that? Did you couldn't wait to read the next issue of it?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to find out, who it was going to be, and I had my suspicions. I'm not gonna ruin anything for anybody, but I had my suspicions, as the journey went along, and I thought it was a pretty good storyline myself.
I never got into that. That's one of those stories in the back of my mind that I keep telling myself one day I'm going to get into that particular story just to see what happened. Because there have been 3 Red Hulks to this point, right? Have there been 3?
Now, I didn't know that there had been 3. I've kind of, I've kind of lost track. Mm-hmm. So I knew about the first, but I didn't. Well, let's see. And then there was another female Hulk. I can't remember what her name is. Somewhere in the Hulk family.
I did not know that. I know they did the cartoon with the Hulk and the Agents of Smash, which is very odd because they had different Hulks on the team, right? Did you ever watch that cartoon?
I don't remember watching it, no.
So it was him. There was a Red Hulk. I think there was She-Hulk. There was his son. And there was somebody else. They were all just a bunch of Hulks. Just a bunch of Hulks just hanging out, hulking out. I don't know. But yeah, it wasn't exactly geared toward like mid to later teenager, like some of the shows were. It was geared more toward the kids. It was called Hulk and the Agents of Smash. So there again, that's one of those. It's kind of it's on the back burner for me. I just haven't yet to check it out. If I had to answer the question of what my favorite Hulk is, I am torn between the Hulk of the first Avengers and the Hulk that happened in Avengers Endgame. I love that Hulk. The fact that Bruce has full control of the Hulk now, and he's just walking around in clothes, and he's in the restaurant doing the dab with those kids, telling them, "Hey, stay in school, eat your vitamins, or take your whatever he told them." That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. I believe the Professor Hulk in Endgame was probably my favorite of the movies. That's apart from the comic. When all of a sudden when it first hits when the scene first hits, all you hear is them talking, and you're thinking, well, is this Mark Ruffalo's voice? And then you see him, and then all of a sudden I was like, wow! Started laughing because it was ridiculous, because I thought, man, this is great. This is awesome.
Yeah, there were so many moments in that film, dude. If you went to see that film when it came out, like opening weekend, and you were in a theater full of people, man, you got all the cool reactions from everybody around you, because that's one of those moments where it's like, as soon as you saw him, everybody was like, "Oh my God!" You could hear people clapping and stuff. This is so cool. So yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, he was fantastic.
He's kind of dishing Ant-Man a little bit.
He's like, "Oh, you guys want to take a picture with me?" And they're like, "No." It's like, "Oh, it's all right. They don't know who we are." "Oh, it's all right. Come and take a picture with them." He's like, "They don't know who I am. It's fine." He kept trying to talk them into it. So
yeah.
That's good stuff, man. I mean, that's the Hulk that you got to stick with. He's the most entertaining. He's the most fun to watch. I mean, I like intelligent Hulk. I think I just think it makes the most sense. But like I said, the first Avengers movie, when they're all on the ground together, back to back to back to back, and Cap's giving the marching orders, and he looks at Hulk and he says, "Hulk," and Hulk just goes, "Rah," and he's like, "Smash." And I'm like, "Oh my God, that was so cool, man!"
Yeah.
Like,
that was one of the best lines in the movie. And then you see Hulk grin, and he jumps up on a building and starts smashing.
Dude, it's just that I'm sitting here in my chair having a fanboy moment. I can't help myself. Like, that will never, ever lose its shine from me. I love that moment. Like I saw it for the first time. Like I watched it like I saw it for the first time. It's utterly rewatchable, and it's never to be forgotten. I just love that moment. One of the best moments of any film I've ever seen. But forget Marvel film, I just love it, because like we said, the Marvel people know what they're doing, and they give their properties to the right creators. So yeah, fantastic stuff.
They actually care about the product and the fans, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, man, we're finally getting the Hulk that we've been asking for years. We're finally getting the Hulk that we deserve, the Hulk that we've only ever read about in the comics. We're actually getting that character for real on the big screen. And it's crazy. And I'll be straight up honest with you, and you might think this is crazy. So I would not be against another Hulk TV show at all. Now, having said that, Disney Plus has their streaming service, and with the situation the world's in right now, we don't exactly have blockbuster films happening. There is a Loki TV show coming for that streaming service. There's Hawkeye coming. There is Vision and Scarlet Witch. There is Winter Soldier and Falcon. So all the original actors are returning. I would love to see a Mark Ruffalo Hulk TV series on Disney Plus. That would be fantastic.
Oh yes, I'm with you there, Tom. I would absolutely love that. I would pay to see that.
Oh my God, such good stuff, man. It would totally work too. All right, so as there's a lot of times when we, do a show, man, I feel like we just kind of graze the surface of what we could talk about. Here, put it to you this way, it's always a topic we can come back to at a later time, and especially when new developments happen, when new films happen, when something extra has to be told or be talked about or debated or whatever. I mean, that's the time to go back to it. But in the meantime, I will get, if you can sum it up for me, what's your last word on the Hulk?
The Hulk, to me, is, well, in my personal opinion, the best character in Marvel. I mean, I know a lot of people would disagree with me there, but in my heart, I love the Hulk. I've always loved the Hulk. I'm never gonna, he's always going to be my favorite Marvel character, probably, comic book character of all time. And I just hope that, from here on out, they do him more justice. I want to see Mark Ruffalo again, please.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. He's fantastic. And I've used the word fantastic 300 times in this particular episode. So how about this? It's not fantastic. It's incredible. How about that?
There you go.
So, yeah, man, for me, the Hulk is, you put it best at the start of this show, man. It's that internal struggle. It's that, the light facing the dark. It's the showdown trapped in the mind of one person, one body. And we're all the Hulk. If you really think about it, we all struggle with things. We all have things that we maybe not necessarily don't want people to see, but, a bad side, maybe we don't want it to get out, or, we're going through regular civilized life. The majority of us keep our mouths shut when something bad happens, and it is what it is. But other times you can't help yourself and you just cut loose. And to me, the Hulk is just unapologetically, a rebel. He just cuts loose. And with the exception of hurting innocent people, if there's something to be done, he's going to do it. If it's time to smash, it's time to smash. And he's one of the most fun characters I've ever read. Definitely one of the most fun characters I've ever watched in a feature film, especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there's still a lot more to talk about this character. I'm sure we'll get to it in time. I'm sure, hopefully, like you said, there's a lot more of Ruffalo to come, a lot more of this character to come, more importantly, in the comic books themselves. And it's a character that deserves to be there, and I think we all have a connection to him as readers, as fans, as moviegoers. So I, for one, can't wait to see more of him. And that is the Hulk. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.